Hello, English learners, and welcome to EnglishPod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
Erica, today we are really excited, right?
Yeah, we've got a great lesson today all about real English.
Exactly, English that you hear in movies and TV shows.
Yeah, speaking of movies, today's podcast takes place at the movies.
Exactly, and that's why it's so fun today.
Uh-huh.
Okay, great. So before we listen to our dialogue, let's take a look at our vocabulary preview.
Vocabulary preview.
In today's vocabulary preview, we have two words. And the first word is inconsiderate.
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 So Erica, what is it when someone is inconsiderate?
If someone's inconsiderate, they're not thinking about the feelings of other people.
Right, so for example, yesterday I was on the subway and it was full.
Right?
And an old lady was standing there and no one got up to give her their seat.
That was pretty inconsiderate.
Great, so now let's take a look at our second word, and it's keep it down.
Keep it down.
Keep it down.
Keep it down.
So why don't we listen to
Vocabulary
some
preview.
examples on how we use keep it down so we can understand.
Example 1.
Excuse me, do you mind keeping it down? It's after midnight.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Example 2.
I'm trying to study. Do you mind keeping it down?
Example 3.
You mind keeping it down? I'm trying to watch the game.
So that means be quiet.
Yes, don't make so much noise.
I used to hear this one all the time from my mother.
I think we all did when we were children.
Yep.
Okay, so now let's listen to the dialogue for the first time. It's gonna be kind of fast.
But don't worry about it if you can't understand everything. By the end of today's lesson, you will understand this dialogue.
Those people in front of us are making so much noise. It's so inconsiderate.
Don't worry about it. It's not such a big deal.
Oh, I can't hear a thing. Excuse me, can you keep it down?
Sure, sorry about that.
Someone's phone is ringing.
Honey, I think it's your phone. Did you forget to switch it off?
Oh no, you're right. That's so embarrassing.
Do you mind keeping it down? I'm trying to watch a movie here.
Well, I hate it when people's phones ring when I'm watching a movie.
I think everyone gets kind of angry, but we're going to talk about this a little bit later. Why don't we take a look now at our language takeaway?
Language takeaway.
So the language takeaway is our most important words for today's lesson. And our first word today is not such a big deal.
Not such a big deal.
Not such a big deal.
So when something is not a big deal, it's
Not a big problem.
not important, right?
Exactly.
Okay, let's listen to some examples.
Example 1.
I can't get these files to you by tomorrow.
It's okay, it's not such a big deal.
Example 2.
I'm really sorry. I'm gonna be 10 minutes late for the meeting.
It's not such a big deal. Peter and Liam are late too.
Now let's look at our second word, and it's switch it off.
Switch it off.
Switch it off.
Switch it off.
So this word means to turn it off.
To turn something off.
Now, we can use it in 3 different ways.
Yeah, this one is a little bit complicated because it changes a little bit depending on how you use it. So, Marco, I think you've got some examples for us.
Right. So, for example, I can say, did you switch off your phone?
Or you could say, did you switch your phone off?
Right. Or simply you can ask, did you switch it off?
I think this one is a little bit hard. Let's look at a couple more examples.
Okay, so I can say, for example, switch off the TV
Switch the TV off.
or switch it off.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit more clear.
Yeah.
But you know what? We even had trouble with that one, didn't we?
Yeah, we had to do it a couple of times. Okay, now let's look at our last word, and it's can't hear a thing.
Can't hear a thing.
I can't hear a thing.
Can't hear a thing.
Okay, we have some examples for this phrase, so let's listen.
Example 1.
What's going on in there?
I don't know. I can't hear a thing.
Example 2.
What? I'm sorry, this music is too loud. I can't hear a thing.
So that's like saying, I can't hear.
Exactly, I can't hear anything.
It's too loud.
Right. So now we are ready to listen to our dialogue a second time. It's gonna be slower.
This time, listen for some of the key words we were explaining.
Those people in front of us are making so much noise. It's so inconsiderate.
Don't worry about it. It's not such a big deal.
I can't hear a thing. Excuse me, can you keep it down?
Sure. Sorry about that.
Someone's phone is ringing.
Honey, I think it's your phone. Did you forget to switch it off?
Oh no, you're right. That's so embarrassing.
Do you mind keeping it down? I'm trying to watch a movie here.
Okay, great. Now with the dialogue slower, it's really understandable.
Yeah, I think you could catch those keywords a lot better.
Perfect. So now we are ready to look at putting it together.
Putting it together.
So in putting it together, we help you use a great phrase in different ways. And today's phrase is, do you mind?
Do you mind?
Do you mind?
Okay, so let's listen to some examples on how you can use this phrase in different situations.
Example 1.
Do you mind holding my coat for me?
Example 2.
Oh, I forgot my wallet. Do you mind paying for dinner?
Example 3.
Do you mind turning off your phone?
So this phrase is usually pretty polite. I could say to you, Marco, do you mind holding my coat for me?
And that's really polite.
Yeah, so would you mind, do you mind are very polite phrases.
But depending on your voice and how you use your tone, it could be a little bit sarcastic, right?
Yeah, it could be a little bit rude if you say, would you mind keeping it down?
Exactly, like we heard in our dialogue.
Yeah, so that's not so polite.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in English, you have to be careful because your tone of voice tells the other person how you're feeling, if you're angry, sad, or just like in any other language.
Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, using a phrase like do you mind is a great phrase, but make sure you keep a positive tone in your voice.
Exactly. So now that we've talked about all these great things, we can listen to the dialogue a third time, but it'll be at its normal speed.
Those people in front of us are making so much noise. It's so inconsiderate.
Don't worry about it. It's not such a big deal.
Oh, I can't hear a thing. Excuse me, can you keep it down?
Sure. Sorry about that.
Someone's phone is ringing.
Honey, I think it's your phone. Did you forget to switch it off?
Oh no, you're right. That's so embarrassing.
Do you mind keeping it down? I'm trying to watch a movie here.
So I know that in different countries, there are different habits about watching movies.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Erica, what's it like in Canada?
Well, in Canada, it's really common to eat popcorn and candy and maybe chips while you're watching a movie. But if your phone rings in the movie theater, this is a big problem.
I imagine it is. I mean, I would be upset also.
What about in Ecuador?
Well, in Ecuador and in South America, usually people can bring in food from the outside.
Really?
Yeah, so it's not really uncommon, depending on the city, to find people bringing in chicken or some sort of like really smelly food.
No way.
So you get either really hungry or really upset, but that's what happens.
You know, I used to live in Switzerland, and in Switzerland, you would have to eat before you watch the movie. There was no popcorn, no soda, no candy inside the movie theater. Can you imagine that?
I could not live with that because the whole purpose of going to the movies is to have some popcorn and relax and have a good time.
You can't have a movie without popcorn.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about how to ask someone to be quiet today. And I hope that you'll go out and try a few of these phrases in your daily life.
Yes, and I hope also that you visit our website at englishpod.com and leave all your questions and comments.
Marco and I are there every day, so we'll be happy to answer your questions. But until next time,
Bye.
Goodbye.
The second paragraph of the dialogue.
All right, so picture this. You got your popcorn, you found the perfect seat, the lights are going down, and bam! Someone's phone goes off with like the most obnoxious ringtone ever. It's like we've all been there at some point, right? Mm-hmm. And it got us thinking, today we're going to do a deep dive into movie theater etiquette. You know, that whole trying to have a good time watching a movie. But sometimes people, well, they're a little inconsiderate.
Yeah, for sure. Movie theaters are kind of interesting because everyone's supposed to be quiet, right? Like you're all focused on the same thing, the movie, which is kind of different from how we usually are, you know, out in the world. So like if someone makes even a tiny little noise, it can feel super distracting.
That's so true. And actually the stuff we're looking at today talks a lot about inconsiderate behavior. Like what exactly makes something inconsiderate at the movies?
I think it's basically anything that takes away from other people's experience. So stuff like talking really loud or phones going off or even like bringing in stinky food from outside. All those things can totally pull you out of the movie.
Okay, so imagine this. Someone's chatting away next to you. Like they're totally oblivious to everyone else. The material we're looking at actually says to just tell them to keep it down. But that kind of feels a bit aggressive, don't you think?
Yeah, it does. It's like something you'd hear on a playground, right? Like from a teacher or something. I mean, it might work, but there are definitely nicer ways to say it. Like the main thing is to just make them realize they're being loud.
Yeah.
But you don't want to, cause a scene.
Right. Nobody wants to have a confrontation in a dark, crowded theater.
Yeah.
So what are some things you could say instead of keep it down? You know, something a bit more cinema friendly.
Instead of saying keep it down, maybe try something like, excuse me, would you mind lowering your voices a bit? You could also add, I'm having trouble hearing the movie. It's polite, but it also explains the problem. And it doesn't make them feel like you're attacking them,
I like that. It's way better. Okay, let's talk about another big movie theater pet peeve. Glowing phone screens. The material we're looking at today uses a pretty strong phrase for this one, switch it off. Why is turning our phones completely off so important, even if they're on silent?
Well, even a little bit of light can be distracting in a dark theater. It pulls your eyes away from the screen, and for the people around the person with the phone, it's basically like having a tiny spotlight shining on them.
Totally. And besides the whole distraction thing, don't you think it's good to just disconnect for a bit? Like to really be in the moment with the movie?
Totally. It's a chance to just get lost in the story without all the pings and notifications and stuff. I mean, we all know it's tempting to look at your phone, but resisting that urge, it makes the whole movie experience better for everyone.
It's funny how something as simple as switch it off can mean so much, right? It's not even just about the phone itself. It's about respecting everyone else in the theater. Okay, there's one more phrase that caught my eye. Do you mind? It seems pretty straightforward, but I feel like how you say it can totally change the meaning.
Oh, for sure. Do you mind is one of those phrases that can be either super polite or super passive-aggressive. It all depends on how you say it. Like, imagine someone sighing really loud and saying, do you mind not kicking my seat? That's not really a question. It's them being annoyed.
Oh, yeah. I've totally been on the receiving end of a do you mind like that before. So how do we use it the right way in a movie theater?
Well, you got to be specific and sound like you actually mean it, be polite. So instead of just saying, do you mind, try something like, do you mind putting your phone away, please? The light is a bit distracting. Adding please and explaining why it's bothering you, it makes it clear that you're just asking nicely, not being bossy.
Yeah, and even if you say it perfectly, your tone still matters, right? Like, smile and be friendly. And don't, get all tense.
It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. I get it. So something else we have to talk about is how movie etiquette is different in different cultures. There was this one story we read about someone bringing a whole cooked chicken into the theater, like a full-on chicken to eat during the movie. I can't even imagine seeing that.
It's crazy, right? What's normal in one place can be totally weird somewhere else. Like in some cultures, it's fine to talk during a movie. But other places, even whispering is like a huge no-no.
It's so interesting how these unwritten rules change everything. Totally. Like, did you know that in some countries it's actually encouraged to bring your own food? It's seen as a way to, make going to the movies cheaper, especially for families.
Wow, that's so different from here. Yeah. Here, it's all about the overpriced snacks at the concession stand.
Exactly. And even how people react to the movie can be different. Some places, people clap and cheer during exciting parts, but other places, everyone's totally silent the whole time.
So what should our listeners do if they're traveling or just, at a theater with different cultural norms?
I think the best thing is to just be aware and try to adapt. Pay attention to what everyone else is doing and be respectful, even if it's not what you're used to.
Basically, be open-minded and appreciate how other people experience movies.
Exactly. Now, switching gears a bit, sometimes it's not just about what other people are doing, right? It's also about how you can make your own experience better.
Oh, I like that.
Huh.
So we're not just talking about what not to do, but also what to do to have an even better time at the movies.
Exactly. One easy thing is to get there early and choose your seat carefully. If you need legroom, get an aisle seat. Or, if you want to avoid distractions, sit far away from the entrance.
Those are good tips. I also think it helps to kind of mentally prepare before the movie starts. Like, put your phone away, clear your head, and just get ready to be fully immersed in the film.
Yeah, like create a do not disturb zone in your mind.
Yes. And, sometimes even a small act of kindness can go a long way. Like holding the door for someone, offering to share your popcorn, helping someone find their seat. All that stuff can make the whole atmosphere better.
Absolutely. It's like that whole pay it forward idea,
preview.
right? One good deed can lead to another.
I love that.
Yeah.
And sometimes the best parts of going to the movies aren't even on the screen. It's the stuff that happens in the audience, like everyone gasping at a plot twist or clapping at the end of a really good movie. It's those shared experiences that make it so special.
It's like magic, right? You're all strangers, but you're sharing this really powerful moment together.
It's like we become part of something bigger than ourselves. Okay, before we move on and talk about some specific situations and how to handle them, let's quickly recap. What are some of the main things our listeners should remember?
I think the most important thing is to remember that movie theaters are like any other social space. It's all about respect and being considerate of others, whether it's being mindful of your own behavior or politely asking someone to change theirs. Clear communication and a little bit of empathy can make a huge difference.
It's kind of funny. As we've been talking, I've realized there's almost like a language to movie theater etiquette, like certain phrases and ways of talking that can help you deal with those awkward moments,
Yeah, that's a good point. Words really do matter, especially when you're trying to say something delicate or maybe even confrontational. A well-placed, excuse me, or would you mind, can totally change how things go.
Yeah, it's like those phrases are the tools we need to use. And if we know how to use them the right way, we'll be more confident when something happens,
For sure. And like any tool, you got to know when and how to use it. Like, remember that phrase, switch it off? It can work really well for someone using their phone, but you got to say it in a way that doesn't sound aggressive.
Definitely. Your tone and how you act matters too. A gentle reminder and a smile will get you way further than barking an order at someone.
Exactly. And sometimes you don't even need to say anything. Just making eye contact and kind of pointing at their phone can be enough.
So it's all about reading the room and figuring out what will work best. Okay, this is a fun one. What are some of the most creative solutions you've heard of people using to deal with annoying stuff at the movies?
Oh, I've heard some good ones. There's the classic spill your popcorn trick. Like when someone keeps kicking your seat, you accidentally drop some popcorn on them. It's a little sneaky, but sometimes those playful tactics work.
Yeah, I could see that working. But of course, we always want to be polite first, right?
Absolutely. And honestly, I think most people aren't trying to be jerks. They might just not realize how their actions are bugging other people. That's why a simple, polite request is usually all you need.
Right, like we talked about before, approach the situation with empathy and understanding.
Exactly. And sometimes a little humor can go a long way too. If someone's phone is ringing, you could be like, hey, I think your phone wants to be in the movie.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
You're addressing the problem, but not being a jerk about it. And it might even make them laugh and realize how silly it is.
Yeah, humor can be a great way to connect with people, even in awkward situations.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into movie theater etiquette, any final words of wisdom?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that movie theaters are these special places. We get to escape reality for a bit and lose ourselves in a story. And if we all try to be mindful and considerate, we can make sure everyone has a good time.
Well said.
Yeah.
It's like we're all characters in this movie theater story. And how we treat each other affects everyone's experience.
Exactly. So next time you're at the movies, remember you're not just an audience member. You're part of a community, and you have the power to make it a positive experience for everyone.
And on that note, we'll end our deep dive here. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of movie theater etiquette. Until next time, remember clear communication, a touch of humor, and a whole lot of empathy. Those are the keys to a great movie-going experience for everyone.